Welcome everybody to Soul Food on a Saturday afternoon. How are you doing today? Good to see you here. If you've been to Soul Food before, you might know that we really take a lot of pride, sort of in the old coffee house fashion of really supporting and celebrating the local art that goes on in our community. Examples on our art wall, I believe the art we have on the wall here is actually from a 10-year-old that started painting recently, and some other art from local members of our community, and that extends, of course, into music, poetry, and book writing. And today we're pleased to bring a local author to you. Bryan Esparza is going to come on up and talk about a little bit about his second book and how he got into writing. And let's welcome Bryan to the stage.
Wow. The last time I did one of these was about 2 years ago. I was just a 17-year-old, long-haired high school kid with two things running through his head. The first thing was, you've never done this before, so don't screw this up. And number two, don't let the coffee grinder get into your head. You may or may not understand that later on. And yet, 2 years later, I find myself back up here with a lot more experience, and those are still the two things running through my head. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Bryan Esparza. I'm 19 years old, and I reside here in Redmond. I've lived here for a good 11 years of my life, and I have to say that despite our year-long rain and depressing weather patterns, I love it here. It's a good place to live. And, because I'm 19, I remember high school like it was yesterday. Partially because I have a very big memory, and another reason is because I wrote about it. A lot of people like to reminisce about high school and all the life lessons and all the friends they made, their boyfriends, their girlfriends. I decided to write about it. The infamous story about me and how I got into writing was when I was about 12 years old. I was a big fan of professional wrestling. At 12 years old, seeing guys wrestle, getting hit by chairs, and you think it's real. Sadly enough, around that same young age, I came to find out that it was scripted and it was fake. And as devastating as that was, it sparked an idea in my head. It's like, it's kind of cool how they can keep this male soap opera going for 20 to 30 years and they're still here. I bet I could do something like that. And so what I started to do was I wrote about a fictional wrestling promotion, these little 2-3 page stories. I freehanded them. They were structured very poorly, but that was the first time I ever wrote something. And my dad actually saw me writing one day, and this is late 6th grade, and he told me are you doing homework? Because I was an introvert growing up. I didn't play a lot of sports because I wasn't really that good. All I really did was go to school, do my homework, watch TV, and play video games. That's all I did. And when I told him that, this is just something I'm doing for fun, I just saw his eyes light up, yeah. Because it was the first time he had ever seen me do something productive with my life. And I showed him what I was doing, all the past writings I had, and he saw it as a phase. So to any 12-year-old, you believe anything because you're very gullible. He told me, I'll tell you what, if you can write a book that is at least 100 pages, it has chapters, it flows, you have a bunch of storylines, I will find a publisher for you. And so at 12 years old, the first thing that came into my head was, I'm going to make a lot of money. And of course now I know it doesn't quite work that way, but that's how it all started. So every day after school, all throughout 7th grade, I would literally go home and think all right, what do I try and write about today? I could write about skateboarding, I could write about wrestling again. It got to the point where it's like throwing a dart at a wall of topics, and it's that's what I'm going to try today. I would make it maybe 5 or 10 pages in and give up because I didn't have a storyline ready. And so I was so guerrilla about it that I knew I needed to stop when in language arts class I read The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, one of the first books I had ever read, front to back. And it sparked in my young mind that, hey, why don't I write a book about the greasers and how they could adapt to today's society? What if they came back? A quick side note, don't ever try to do that. Ever. um, but yeah, after that, I thought like, yeah, I need to stop. And so I kind of kicked writing to the curb for a while. And in the summer of that year, summer heading into my 8th grade year, I discovered the joys of going outside and the fact that there's more to life than going to school, going to the store, and going home. As I said, I was a hermit. I wasn't really I was very antisocial. I always wanted to stay home. But in 7th grade is when I met a kid who took me under his wing, so to speak. Readers of the book will know him as Derek. Derek was my neighbor all throughout middle school and high school, and he was the complete opposite of me. He was very social, always wanted to go outside. He was a member of the local skate park where he kind of hung out and grew up, and he would see me in the halls all the time, and he finally asked me hey, do you want to go to the skate park? Now, up until this point, all I knew about our local skate park was a bunch of negativity. It's that's where people smoke pot, that's where alcohol is distributed to minors, that's where fights are. You don't want to go there. But I went there. So when I go there, some people were right, but at the same time, I want you to picture this. I want you to picture a 13-year-old unathletic tech nerd with basically no social skills, and put him in the skate park, known for its drug use, known for its aggression, and known for its fighting. On paper, that doesn't sound too good, but I was accepted by the skate park crew, mainly because I was nice to them. Back in the day, I was really good at managing my money. I wish I was good now, but back in the day, if Derek broke his skateboard, I would buy him a new one if he didn't have the money. If some people didn't have money for lunch, I would spot them money. I wouldn't ask them to pay me back, because there were 2 things I wanted in my life. One was to be a published author, and another one is to find happiness in my life. People make me happy. Friends make me happy. So if buying you a new skateboard or taking you out to lunch makes you happy, I'm happy. Of course, and that was my life from 7th grade up until my sophomore year of high school. My sophomore year of high school is when the skate park scene was kind of dying, and at that point I kind of realized who's there to take money from me and who's going to be there for me later on in life. So I was able to cut a few people off and make that decision. And finally, in sophomore year, me and Derek are really close. I was going to his house every day, hanging out with him every day. And of course, around that time in high school is when you start to get your first true girlfriends and boyfriends and relationships. And so I would see Derek get all these girlfriends and all that. And I treated them like how I would treat anyone else. I would help them out, spot Derek if he needed money for a date, because he was bad with money back in the day. And Derek kind of saw me, and he's like, if Bryan can treat his friends this way, if he treats his friends like basically family, imagine if he had a girlfriend. Just imagine that real quick. Now, I was very hesitant. I denied it. I'm like, yeah, I don't want a relationship. I just want to be myself. But I can tell you right now, this is one of the few times where this is as real as it gets. For every 9 out of 10 people that say, oh, I don't want a relationship, I don't want a boyfriend or girlfriend, I don't want to go out on dates and say I love you to someone, 9 out of those 10 people, they're lying. Deep down inside, they really do. And so that summer, Derek made it his goal to, try to get me laid or try to find a girlfriend, because he just really wanted this for me. Now, as all of this is going on, I'm still not writing. I may try every once in a while, but there was another friend of mine by the name of Omar. He was a very smart kid, very intelligent, and I went over to his house one day, and he was reading a book, and he just kept shaking his head like this, just, why am I reading this? This is stupid. And I go up to him, like, what's wrong? And he started ranting to me about this book, about how fake it was, about how it doesn't make sense. This isn't real, even though people say it's real. And I picked up the book, and it was a book called Go Ask Alice by Beatrice Sparks. Has anyone here ever heard of Go Ask Alice? All right. So I tried to read the book for a good week, and I can tell you right now, I have not read the book front to back. All I can tell you is that it's about a girl named Alice who goes to a party. She tries, I believe it was LSD or like some kind of drug. She likes it, and of course, like anything, if you like going to the movies or if you like doing anything, you're gonna want to do it again. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's exactly what a high school kid would do. You would try something, and maybe do it again, maybe not. But it was blown way out of proportion. She ends up traveling to all these states. She's getting mugged. She's trying all these things that I didn't even know existed. And, like, that just kind of shook me up a little bit. And then I'm like, why don't I look up reviews on this? And people are glorifying this book for how real and how uncensored and raw it is, and how it's a good scare tactic to keep my child away from drugs or stuff like that. And finally, I came to find out that Beatrice Sparks at the time, she was about 40 or 50 years old. To me, when you're 40 or 50 years old, I can imagine that you are settled down in life, you have a steady job and life, maybe a spouse with a kid or two. So if I were to write about that at that age, if I were to write about, having a life as a 40-year-old, yeah, that's perfect. What she did, however, was she's 40 years old, and on top of that, she was a straight edge, meaning that she has never done a drug in her life. She has never drank alcohol in her life. And what she did was she interviewed these kids who literally fell off the wagon and said, I'm going to interview these sporadic kids, put them into one book, and say, this is what it's like to do drugs when you're in high school. No, it's not. And so I finally came to the realization that, hey, I'm in high school. Me, Derek, Omar, all my friends, we've done our fair share of experimenting. Are we traveling to Chicago to get mugged and end up in an insane asylum like Beatrice Sparks? No. Are we happy? Do we know what we're doing? Yes. Can we end up like that if we don't know what we're doing? Sure we can. Anyone can. But to say that, if you do this drug, or if you do X, you're going to end up over here in jail or in an asylum or something. That's not true. So what I thought was, I'm in high school. This is my junior year of high school at this point. I'm going to write about my high school experience. Mainly because I'm 16 years old, and I'm going to write from a perspective of a 16-year-old. Someone who is in high school. Someone who knows what's the new in thing, what's the slang, what's going on. If I wrote about high school at Beatrice Sparks' age, and I was looking back on life and saying, like, damn, I don't really remember why I chose to drink alcohol that day, as opposed to right now. I remember exactly why I chose to drink alcohol that day. I'd never tried it before. I wanted to try it. I was curious. As heartbreaking as it is for some people, especially with kids, you could tell your child until you're blue in the face, don't do drugs, don't drink alcohol, don't do this, don't do that. What do you think they're going to do? More than likely, they're going to try it, mainly because they're saying, what is so bad about this? What is so bad about drugs? Or what is so bad about alcohol that I can't touch it? I can't associate myself with it. And so that's what I wanted to write about, the perspective of high school life. And so I start writing again. I write all throughout my junior year. And of course, around that time is when Derek was still trying to get me laid and still trying to get me a girlfriend, someone to be there for. And so what I'm going to do now is read a passage from Attitude. That's the name of my first book that I wrote in my junior year. Around this time is when Homecoming was coming around. Who here has ever been to Homecoming? Oh, awesome. All right, let me try this again. Who here wanted to go to Homecoming but decided not to at the time or regretted it? Sweet. Well, for me personally, I didn't really like school functions. I didn't want to ask anyone to prom or homecoming. To me, it was a big waste of time. And it was a big waste of time to Derek as well, from his perspective. He would always tell me, like, dude, you don't want to go to homecoming. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do that. I've been there. It's not for you. And next thing you know, they meet a pair of girls. A pair of girls named Amber and Leah. Amber immediately takes a liking to Derek. She likes the way he is. You know, Derek was kind of a jerk. He had like a jerkish kind of sense of humor, and she liked that. So he had his foot in the door. He asked her to homecoming. He's good to go. And then Leah is exactly like me. In the book, you're going to find my name to be Jason Espinoza. Now, me and Jason, we are exactly the same, almost. He's about a year older than me, and the way I'm dressed right now, a gray beanie, gray jacket, black shirt, pair of jeans, and some beat-up shoes. Every day in high school, you saw me wearing this, or you saw Jason Espinoza wearing this. Because something that people don't really know about him is that he's a superstitious kid, you know. I think partially because he started coming here. But he just feels that if you dress this way, he was always told in his life, you need to dress for success, Jason. Jason, you got to dress with a nice suit when you go in for interviews. If he wanted to, he would walk into an interview like this, because people say dress for success. He says dress content and confident. If this makes him confident, that's what he's going to wear. And so with his superstition, you know, he looks at Leah and says like, wow, she's kind of like me, which is good and bad, because Leah wasn't really open. She didn't really want to like express that, oh, I like this kid. As much as people told Jason like, oh yeah dude, ask her out, you got your foot in the door, you got it. You know, as much as they told him that, he just denied it because he couldn't see it in her. He would try and text her to start a conversation. She wasn't tech savvy. And so the day before he was going to ask, because Derek kept pressuring him, he's like, dude, I'll just do it. The day before he was going to ask, someone came first. Someone asked her first. And as he wasn't really that bummed, but at the same time, he just felt like, all right, I'll just ask her out, or I'll do something. And he decides to go for a walk downtown and like see what's going on through his head, and like try and get this out of his head. And that's when he runs into an old friend of his by the name of Savannah. Savannah, to him, probably made the biggest impact on his life up to that point, despite the fact that she didn't pop into his life a lot. But when she did, she helped him out a lot. So he sees her on the bus, and you know, they go for a walk, and he was originally going to go get some lunch or something like that. But Savannah ends up taking him to this coffee shop downtown. And I'm not going to read this passage because I'm in the building right now, but this is the story of the first time I ever came to Soul Food. I would have gone to the skate park that day, as I intended, but the two of us were in deep conversation. Savannah ended up taking me to some coffee shop up the street. We went to the back of the building where numerous kids hung out, most of them in their early 20s. Savannah introduced me to everyone, and within 10 seconds, I forgot everyone's name, with the exception of Andrew, because he looked like Jesus to me. I was invited to hang out with them and talk with them, and although a little hesitant, I gave in. Eventually, we started talking, and of course, people started to reminisce about their years of high school and all the good times they had. And one topic after another, homecoming was brought up. Trust me, guys, homecoming is the key to sealing the deal and getting laid, Andrew said as we walked up to the bench. He pointed at Savannah and I. You two are in high school. Isn't homecoming like this weekend? Savannah spoke up. Yeah, I'm actually busy this weekend. Besides, I'm single and no one's asked. Andrew nodded his head at me. I smiled. Long story. Hey, we got time, he responded. I took a deep breath as everyone turned their attention to me. All right, then. Beginning to end, I told how everything went, how we met, you know, the thing we had going on, and the plan to ask her to homecoming. I ended with what happened that morning when I found out that Steven had asked her. Andrew lit a cigarette and was the first to respond. So, she likes you. You intended to ask her tomorrow, but this guy comes along and asks her first. I nodded. On top of that, she doesn't really like the guy, but just said yes because she's too nice to say no. I nodded again. He spread his arms. Well, what are you waiting for, man? Ask her anyway. Hey, I smiled and shook my head. Why can't I just ask her out? Savannah nudged my shoulder. Because homecoming is a very rare and limited opportunity. And in your situation, everything is in your favor. I thought about the scenario itself, and it all sounded a little too unrealistic. What am I supposed to be? Leah's knight in shining armor here to sweep her off her feet? That's stuff you see in Hollywood chick flicks. So all you gotta do is make it a reality and ask her to homecoming, Andrew replied. I sighed again. I still don't know why I can't just take her to the movies or something. Savannah asked her cigarette, then proceeded to pull me out of the chair. Jason, anyone can take a chick to the movies. This is what chick flicks are made of. You can do this. Yeah. Andrew added to the conversation. Jason, do you want to get laid? I shrugged. Then take that girl to homecoming. Savannah took me to the local food mart before I could respond. The two of us found ourselves staring at the flower section of the store for a few minutes until Savannah finally spoke. Jason, you're gonna do this. I'm here to buy whatever you need, and screw it if you don't want me to, because I'm gonna do it anyway, because I don't care. You're gonna do this. Let's see. I was still shooken up by the idea, and my mind was racing with random-ass scenarios and results. I decided speaking without thinking would help. I still don't know, it'd be sick, but you know what? Screw it, I'll do it. Savannah smiled at me and started digging for random flowers. You want to get a bouquet? It's homecoming, not prom. Oh, then how about a single? Works for me. Let's see. We bought some random generic candy bar along with the flower before heading back to the shop. All right, now for a poem, I said, digging into my bag. Andrew slammed the table and pointed at me. Yo, you should get creative, and not just with a poem, but the presentation itself. I got the perfect idea too. I had a feeling he was just spitballing and wasn't really thinking about what he was about to say, but I decided to listen in anyway. Let's see. If we cover the chocolate wrapper in gold, shiny gold, it'll be like that one movie, like the factory, the chocolate. I knew exactly what he was thinking. The golden ticket? Exactly. All right, this is getting kind of weird, I said, thinking about the past couple of hours. The table laughed again, and Andrew went inside the shop. Savannah read an expression on my face. Trust me, bro. It's going to be worth it. I shrugged again as Andrew returned with a sheet of shiny gold paper. I glanced at the shop, and then back at the paper. Yeah, because it's totally normal to keep shiny gold paper in the back of a coffee shop. Andrew smiled at me. Now you see, Jason, here at Soul Food Books, we're here to help anyone with whatever they need. You want it? We got it. I started joking around. Can you get me laid? Andrew smiled at me. What do you think we're trying to do? Yeah. Now, that was, to this day, one of the high points of my life. Mainly because it was the first time I'd ever met a group of people, not just one person, but a group of people who were, within 5 minutes, I could tell them what's going on in my life, and they were willing to help me with whatever it was. A whole group of people pitched in. It was literally all about me that day, and I had just met everyone at this shop. And I don't find that anywhere but here. And I have to take my hat off to Makia, Kevin, Clint, Sarah, and everyone that comes here for keeping this place alive, because it is really something special to me. And yeah, I should probably come here more often. But yeah, as my life kept going, I ended up writing this whole thing in my junior year. And the summer heading into my senior year, I went up to my dad with a big smile on my face. Yeah, tapped him on the shoulder. I'm like, hey, you remember that thing you promised me? Remember when I was 12? He's like, yeah. I'm like, here you go. He's like, oh, you wrote a book? I'm like, yeah, I did. And of course, I was a little bit older, so I had to kind of like do this all on my own. And what I came to realize, especially throughout high school, is that it doesn't matter if you're an artist or a rapper or a writer. Especially in this day and age, it is hard to get out there. Yeah, you guys, people hear the stories of J.K. Rowling living in her car, getting denied by publishers for Harry Potter. You hear Stephen King's early works weren't really accepted. I didn't want to go through all that, so I came to discover self-publishing. I went on to Amazon.com one day, and they were promoting a sister company that they had called CreateSpace. It was an independent publishing company. And I didn't know anything. And my dad always taught me, like, it's okay to tell white lies. So I hit up a consultant, and they're like, how old are you? I'm like, 18. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, I'm 18. Do you write a book? Yeah, I did. Welcome to the independent circuit. And so publishing is a lot of fun, but it is also very time consuming. You know, I am a very impatient person. So like when they say like, oh, your cover's done, but you got to wait 2 days for it to be finalized, or oh, you got to do this and that, I had to get consent from my peers because I wrote about my experience. I tweaked it a little bit to make it flow better. So I had to label it as fiction. But at the same time, it's easy for one of my friends to read this and be like, oh, there I am, even though he changed my name, you know? So I asked everyone for consent, and everyone had the same generic response. It's like, oh yeah, dude, that's totally cool. Like, yeah, just give me a copy when it's published, you know? If you guys aren't familiar with the term two-faced, like someone who is two-faced, when I got published, a few people were like really happy for me. Like, dude, that's awesome. I can't believe you did it. And those people who told me like, yeah, dude, that's totally fine. Use my information and all that. When they walked away from me, they're thinking, oh, he's not going to publish a book. He could barely focus in school. This is way too hard. And when I got published, they went from really supportive to, dude, he doesn't even make a lot of money. He doesn't make a lot of money. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. His first review on Amazon was a 1 out of 5. And it was a 1 out of 5. And yeah, I was actually even threatened to get sued by one of Derek's ex-girlfriends for, and I quote, to be honest, I didn't even think it was going to get published, and that's why I agreed to it. Well, it got published. And but at the same time, I'm thinking, you know, I'm heading into my senior year. I'm going to go in with my head held high. And beginning of my senior year, I was interviewed by my school newspaper because, you know, it's like, oh, published author, he's still in high school. So I told them about the publishing process. I got published in the newspaper. And then I was walking in the halls one day. You know, I was dressed like this. And so people knew who I was at that point. You know, the kid with the beanie. That's what I was known for. I was walking in the halls, and then this kid was sitting at a bench. And as I was walking by him, I assumed he was reading my section. And then I just heard him say, publishing isn't that effing hard. And I just turned to him, and I like just tapped him on the shoulder, and he recognized me. I'm like, you ever published anything in your life? No? Then shut your mouth. Mainly because I went through a lot. I met a lot of people. I lost a lot of people. As I said, I was threatened to get sued. I had to wait a long time. But being able to go from a kid that just wrote this in his room to seeing it binded with its own cover and doing things like this, it's a big deal to me, and it wasn't an easy ride. So at this point in my life, I was riding a snowball. Like, if my momentum was a snowball rolling down a hill, you know, I'm like, oh, I published a book. I'm about to write a book, another book. I decided to write a book. This is going to sound very weird, so bear with me. I was going to continue the story of Jason Espinoza, as he is fresh out of high school, not going to go to college. He is going to publish a book about his life. So I'm writing a book about the publishing process of publishing a book. Let that sink in for a second. And, you know, I'm riding this snowball down the hill, and I'm meeting a lot of people. I'm having a good time, but there's one person in particular that I meet. Derek is off in college. Omar is off in college, so he doesn't really have guidance for being social. But there's a girl that he meets, a girl that has the ability to she changed his life just as much as Derek did. And she has the ability to make him feel like the happiest person in the world, and in one split second, make him feel like the most depressed person in the world. But he likes her for that. Does anyone have an idea on who that girl is to him? Awesome. Jason met his first girlfriend. It was a girl named Amy Torres, and Amy was a little different than all the girls that Derek would send his way. Derek would send him like, dude, look at this preppy girl with, big boobs, or like this really pretty girl. He didn't really want that. He wanted someone who was different and someone who wasn't afraid to be themselves. So Amy Torres was a little different. She was a little younger than him. She like wore alternative attire. She listened to 80s metal and wasn't afraid to like express it. And that's what he liked in her. He's like, that's what I like about her. And so they get to know each other. They talk, they text. Ironically, it was a friend of Savannah's. And so Savannah knew who she was right away. But what was stopping Jason was the age difference. You see, he had seen Derek, date all types of girls. Same age, older, 1 year younger, 2 years younger, stuff like that. But to him, it just didn't feel right. It just kind of stopped him from, making a move or asking her out. And so as he's going through this confusion, he's still hanging out with her. And then eventually, Amy gets tired of waiting. And so she makes a move on him. And so now he's at this crossroads. He's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to ask this girl out? Am I going to just kick her to the curb and say, let's just be friends? And so, as I mentioned in the past, Jason dresses like this because it makes him feel successful and content. And he's also very superstitious, especially with the way he thinks, the way he goes about things. Sometimes he reads a fortune cookie and he's like, yeah, I'm going to look at that in my life. So he ends up finding himself back here with Savannah again. For some reason, all the high points in his life in high school happened here for some reason. He just happened to end up here. And he decides to talk to Savannah about this because Savannah has had experience with this. And I'm reading you this section because it'll show you why Jason is so superstitious and why he does things the way he does. If I could find it. There we go. Let's see. Around 5 o'clock, I dropped my friend off and hit up another. I decided to hit up Savannah asking for coffee at Soul Food. I figured her perspective and advice should help me out with this thing. When I walked in, I saw that Savannah had showed up alone. This was a little concerning to me because I always pictured her and her boyfriend as one. Where's your boyfriend at today? Oh, he's out at his house doing yard work. How have you been publishing your book and all that? I laughed. Good in that aspect. My social and love life is different. She gave me a look of interest. Did my little brother find someone special? Well, yeah, I started. I mean, I like her, and she's made it pretty obvious she likes me. Yeah, Savannah cut me off. How do you know that? Who is this chick anyway? I took a drink of coffee and spoke. It's actually one of your friends. It's like, oh yeah, you have a thing with Amy. How's that going? It's like, she kind of made her move today. It's like, oh yeah. Oh, so you're gonna ask her out, right? Well, I mean, I wanted it to happen, but now I'm kind of at that moment of truth stage and don't know if I want to or not. Savannah held her arms out. What's stopping you, dude? I mean, if you want it to happen, make it happen. I held my fingers up. Savannah, is age just a number? She raised her eyebrows. Oh, so it's that thing. What's the difference? I held up a 2 and let her speak. That's not bad. Personally, it's just a number to an extent. Love is a weird thing, Jason. You can have romantic feelings for a lot of people of all ages. She took a drink and continued. My limit is 4 years, believe it or not. and if you truly want this to happen, life will make it happen. I sighed and remembered that I was an adult. Can I, like, go to jail for this or something? I asked. Savannah grinned and explained. No, actually. She's 16 or 17, right? I nodded. Being that she's 17, 16 is the set age where people can make their own decisions, so to speak. If what you do in terms of bases and relationships is consensual, you're totally fine. Well, that's a relief. I ended up going into deep thought over the whole thing, and Savannah had to bring me back. Look, Jason, I've known you for almost 5 years. If it's truly meant to be, make a choice or life will make it happen. She checked her phone. I have to go grocery shopping, but it was good to see you again. Good luck, and hit me up when your books arrive. I gave her a hug goodbye and stayed at the table. Life will make a decision for me. What could that be? Am I just going to blurt it out one day? Are we going to bang and then I'll realize something? Or maybe that was a one-time thing and I'm just going to keep middlemaning for it. I just want a straight answer, goddammit. I think way too much. I picked up my phone and tried to get my mind off the topic. I found a text from my friend Craig. Hey dude, are you busy? No, what's up? I replied back. I just got off work. Can you give me a ride to the Ridge? I'm finally getting an apartment today. I instantly looked up from the phone and stared hard at the glass window of the shop. That's it. I raced to the restaurant that my friend worked at. It was a Chinese restaurant. Craig was sitting at a table close by, and started laughing. What's up, dude? What's the rush? I tried to find words to say, but instead I kept pointing behind the counter. You need some food, man? Craig asked. I shook my head. No. The cookies, the fortune cookies. He started laughing again. Calm down, dude. What's the big deal? I let out a deep breath and calmed myself down. I'm letting life decide this little Amy thing for me. He spread his arms. I'm telling you, dude, age is just a number. You guys haven't done anything yet, have you? I put on a dumb guy smile that he read perfectly. Oh. He jumped behind the counter and tossed me a cookie. Here you are, my superstitious friend. There was no one in the shop except for the two of us and a couple of other workers, making me feel open to speak my mind. All right, my friend. Within this cookie is going to answer my split decision on this topic. I popped the cookie in my mouth and took my time chewing. I got this. Whatever this thing tells me is the sign to what I should do. Whether things work out or not, this is the tiebreaker to my decisions. Whether they work out or not, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. I swallowed hard and whispered the fortune to myself. Age is a matter of feelings, not numbers. I stayed quiet for a bit, and Craig was too eager to wait. So what are you going to do? I smiled at him and put him in my car. I'll do it. Now, at that moment in my life, or in Jason's life specifically, like I said, his life was like a snowball rolling down a hill. The incline of that hill that the snowball was rolling just got so much steeper, and he was so happy. He had been searching for happiness all his life, and the curve of his happiness just grew exponentially, and he basically found himself saying like, wow, I did it. I found it. Now, all throughout high school, Jason thought to himself whenever he was bored, he's like, yeah, when and if I have a girlfriend, I would want to take her to the movies. I would, like take her out to dinner, all this stuff. He had all these plans. Now, the only thing stopping him was Amy's parents. Amy came from a very strict household. And so it wasn't like he could just hit her up one day and be like, hey, you want to see a movie? Do you want to go for a walk or something? He had to plan things out, and on top of that, she didn't really like the fact that she had friends. That's like the way she put it. But he thought to himself, like, I'm just going to work with what I have. If Amy can suddenly hang out one day and I have plans with my friends, I'll see my friends every day. I'll go hang out with Amy. If Amy is sick and I'm working a double shift at work, I'm going to use my split time to buy her flowers and leave them at her doorstep. Jason just did what he felt was right, what he wanted to do, because Amy, to this day, I don't think Amy knows, but she really changed him. She made him so happy, and he wanted, he made it like his life's goal to make her happy. Even if that meant he had to spend every minute of his life and every last dollar in his bank account, if it meant it would put a smile on her face and make her happy. Now, throughout high school, Jason discovered, like relationships don't last quite long. They don't last, I mean, yes, they can last, but every relationship has an end. He had seen it with Derek, he had seen it with Omar, he had seen it with his friend Craig. Savannah had been through a few. He had seen it all. So he knew that, I'm going to try my best because this girl makes me happy. But if it ends, it ends, And, this book does not do their relationship and like their history justice. Their history expands far beyond this book. And if you ever ask Jason himself, like, hey, why didn't you ever continue that? Whatever happened with you and Amy? All I can do is like smile at you. It's just like, don't worry about it. Because, like he had a good time with her. Like it was a lot of fun. And, as I said, made him really happy, and all he wanted to do was make her happy. But the thing with Amy was she was very quiet. She kind of kept things to herself. If she didn't like something about you, she wouldn't really she would just smile at it and not really think about it until it all came boiling down into like, wow, why did I let this get that way? And, Jason could see it. Everyone could see it from a mile away, but Jason thought, like, you know what, I'm going to do what I can. She's obviously upset with something. She's not telling me what it is, but whatever it takes. If I have to take her to Seattle, if I have to buy her some fancy dinner, I'm going to do that because I love this girl, and I want to show her that I love her, And, they end up not seeing each other for 2 weeks because she kept blowing him off. It's like, oh, I got something to do, or oh, I got schoolwork, or oh, I'm going to my friend's house, and like, Jason accepted that, but at the same time, he kind of figured out, like, yeah, gotta get myself ready for this blow. And next thing you know, he's at work one day, having a regular conversation with her, and he gets a text. And if you ask him to this day, all he can tell you is that he got a text. He ends up, like, if I remember correctly, like, a coworker asked him, like, a question. He, like, threw his hat, he, like, punched a wall, and, like, he left work that day. He just couldn't do it. But, to this day, like, he just feels like, wow, like, life's kind of weird like that. It makes him feel like I put my heart into someone. And they decide to end it that way. But, if you ever talk to Jason on a personal level, he can tell you, like, as upset as I was, I can't get mad. I can't get mad at her because he still did what he said he was going to do. If this is the way she wants to do it, as long as she's happy. And eventually they did talk to each other later on in life, and they sorted things out. They're not together anymore, but they sorted things out. But, right now, what I'm going to say, this is not Jason Espinoza speaking. This is not Bryan Esparza trying to make a quick buck off of his book. This is just me, and this is as real as it gets. If you have a problem with someone, it doesn't matter if it's with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your coworkers, anything like that. If you don't like the fact that they bring you flowers every day, or don't like the fact that they have a certain trait, do it in person. It's like, meet up with them at a place like this or at Starbucks and talk to them in person. Be like, hey, can you, I've just been thinking about this. Can you, like, help me out or maybe do that? Because, and on top of that, even if it's like, oh, I need to break up with my boyfriend or girlfriend, it's not going to look pretty. Do not get me wrong. It's not going to look pretty. But I can tell you right now, if you choose an alternative route, like if you decide, like, oh, I'm going to text him, or oh, I'm just going to end it through email or Facebook, you won't be able to see them. You won't be able to see them, like, break down or anything. So you're like, yeah, I just avoided all that. But what you do to that person is pretty bad. Like they may not, depending on who you do it to, they may or may not express it, but inside it makes them feel like different. Because sometimes Jason wakes up in the morning, goes to his bathroom, looks in his mirror, and he's like, I'm a published author. I have a loving family. I have a lot of friends that love me very much. Why am I upset? Why am I like, what happened to me? You know? People say that Amy was like a rock to him, but if you ask him, yeah, it was just another person to him that he still cares about to this day. And if Amy were here right now, like if Amy busted through that door right now, Jason could tell you that all these things running through his head. It's like, yeah, like all the good times will start running through my head, and then all the depressing times and all that. But he could tell you right now that if she busted through that door and walked up to her, he would just tell her, like, I wish nothing but happiness for you. I will always love you and respect you, but and always be around. Even if you don't want me to, and if you don't want me to be around, you could tell me that, as long as you're happy with your life. Because that's what Jason wants for everyone in life, is to find happiness. Because he spends his life making others happy because it makes him happy. But on top of that, he knows that people don't smile when he buys them a skateboard, or they don't smile when you pick them up from work. They smile because they appreciate you, and it makes him, and it makes that other person feel like something special, and it really like does something to you. And in high school is where I believe you learn to find yourself and know what you want in life, your own style of going about things, the right clicks, if you want to be yourself and all that. And all throughout high school, Jason heard it every single day. It's like, dude, why would you go out with Sarah, or why would you go out with Amber or Amy? You could do so much better. He hates hearing that. Because one of the many things that he wants to teach people is that if you are happy with your life, if you are going out with someone who is in society considered like a 4 out of a 10 or a 5 out of a 10, and you're considered a 7 or an 8 out of a 10, it doesn't matter. If you are happy with that person, if you're happy with what you're doing with that person, your relationship is a 10 and you're happy. That is all that should matter. No one should tell you otherwise. And he knows that there's someone out there for him, and he knows that there's someone out there for Amy too. Whether it be a guy or a girl, or getting back together years from now and they don't know it. He just knows that there's someone out there for everyone. But all he wishes is that people are happy and content with their lives. Wow, I've been up here for a long time. But yeah, that is honestly the reason I wrote these books. And because I'm not about making the money. If you're in it for the money, you're not a writer, if you ask me. I'm all about messaging. I want to tell people these stories to teach them, like, hey, I want to teach you life lessons. I want you to be better in your life. And, that's... Does anyone here have any questions about me, the book, or anything personal? I'm an open book, both physically and literally, so don't be afraid. Yeah.
Who's your favorite poet?
My favorite poet? Wow, that was a hard one. Poet. I actually don't pay attention to poets, sadly. Well, I could read. Yeah. Oh, author. Sherman Alexie. A lot of people say that my writing resembles Sherman Alexie because Sherman Alexie's book, The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, one of my favorite books of all time. People say the way I write, it's like a clone. It's a clone, if not like very well inspired by Sherman Alexie. I wish to meet him one day because we're similar. He wrote about his life, labeled it as fiction, and like put it out to the world, and that's what I did with my stuff. So, yeah, he's my favorite author. Any other? Yeah.
Follow-up question. Would you change anything about this work?
About his work? Honestly, no. I'm a big believer in the fact that, if it's ready to go, it's ready to go. To this day, I can open up attitude or connection, and on every single page, I would flip to a new page and be like, oh, spelling mistake, or oh, I misspelled someone's name. There is a mistake on the acknowledgement page of attitude, and that's one of the first pages you would be able to see. But I decided to publish it because no book is perfect. No one is perfect. And I just kept thinking, I did this for myself. I did not do this for someone else. I did not do this because I want to end up like Stephen King. You know, it'd be cool if I was, but I did this for myself. And as broken as it looks, it's my work, and no one can take it away from me. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, yes. Maybe. I mean, I just kind of have to like think about it. But right now, it's just enjoy life and hopefully pass college. But yeah. Yeah. But yeah, if you guys have questions for me personally, I will be right over there at that table signing books. Attitude is $15. Connection, I think, is 17. I forgot what we labeled it as, but if you guys come up short, that's totally fine. As I said, I'm not about making money. I'm all about trying to help people and better their lives. Thank you for your time.
Bryan, are you going to be around by the table? So I think one of the things I really appreciate about all that is because it's like Bryan mentioned early on is that, you know, because I'm that 50-year-old guy, right, and I'm settled, and those memories are there forever when you're that age. You know, they just stick there forever. But the thing you really lose is the perspective of what it's really like to have that experience at that age, and it's so cool to have Bryan write these stories and share those with us and remind us what it's really like to be there. So thank you for being here and listening to that today. Bryan will be over here signing books if you want to talk with him more. Thank you.